Okay, can everyone still see my screen? I got a little notification saying that I have a lot of windows open. Okay, awesome. So if at any point something is bugging, just throw a comment in the chat and I will try to see to that. All right, so welcome to our little fall welcome session on career development and I guess some need to knows with regard to employment. Maria from PLIAN, the Public Legal Information Association of Newfoundland and Labrador, if I got that right, will be presenting a little bit more about that. So moving on, I'd just like to start our session with a quick land acknowledgement. So we respectfully acknowledge the territory in which we gather as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk and the island of Bakumguk, Newfoundland as the ancestral homelands of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk. We would also like to recognize the Inuit of Nunatsiavut and Nunatukavut and the Innu of Ntsinan and their ancestors as the original people of Labrador. We strive for respectful relationships with all the peoples of this province as we search for collective healing and reconciliation. Walalio, Chinakuminan, and Nakurmik. So those are just thank yous in different Indigenous languages throughout the province. Land acknowledgements are sometimes, not sometimes, are frequently used to open sessions. And this is perhaps something you'll see at future workplaces that you may find work at. So goals of this session are as follows. We are here to give you an overview of the career planning process, career services that are offered at MUN, career-related programs and events. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Maria at the Public Legal Information Association of NL, PLIAN, will present on legal rights for newcomers. There will also be, of course, time for questions. So just a quick overview of what career planning is all about and how I guess we approach it here for our students. We do describe this as a process. So it is something that requires extensive self-reflection and occupational research. So if you are just starting your journey here at Memorial, this is something that hopefully you will be able to reflect upon and consider as you go through your studies. Hopefully you will be, gaining new experiences as you go along, and that is going to inform how you want to, I guess, live your life in the future, what you are studying for, how is that going to be useful for you going forward. So always take the time to kind of reflect upon what you are doing, whether that's once a week or, once a month, or maybe through your coursework, you will have that chance to consider, why are you here? Why are you studying at MUN? How is this going to be helpful for you and your career going forward? You kind of need to know yourself really well to find a job or a career that you're going to be satisfied with going forward. And we can't answer those questions for you. These are things that you have to ask yourself so that we can then kind of help you guide that career search process. But unless if you know what your values and your priorities are first, we can't really answer those questions for you. You need to explore that for yourself. So at MUN, we use an interest and strengths-based approach to career advising. Know that we don't really provide job matching services. We essentially help students learn about tools and resources that can help you plan or execute your next steps. So yes, we do have some connections. We are networked with, employers in and around St. John's or in the province, maybe a few outside of the province. That being said, we don't just pass you off to a job. At the end of the day, you are the ones applying for them. You are the ones presenting yourselves. You are the ones, doing that work. We can kind of help you along, but we can't just give you jobs. That is not within our power. Life would just be a little bit too easy if that was the case. So as I was mentioning earlier, it is a process to plan for your career. So it's great if you're here at this session now. Hopefully you can, take some of these questions and think on them as you, start all your classes and such. So learning about yourself constantly is kind of the first step that turns into exploring career options. Once you know what you're looking for, what you like, what your strengths are, then you can, take that information and decide, okay, like I know what I'm good at, maybe, what are some workplaces or what are some jobs that I would be well suited for, right? Then you reflect, assess, and reassess. Maybe through exploring your career options, you discover, some types of work aren't suitable for you. Maybe you decide, oh, I don't like working with the public that often. I need something where I have my own office and can put my head down and focus. Maybe you want something that's more independent or research focused, or maybe you realize that you want to work for yourself and start your own business, so on and so forth. So that's where this third piece comes in. You're always taking in what you are experiencing, trying to figure out, how much you like what you're doing, and then reassessing, changing things up if it's not a great fit for you. Then you make a plan and implement it, and so on and so forth. So it kind of cycles. Sometimes you'll be, going clockwise in this I guess, process. Maybe you'll be going counterclockwise. That's fine. These are kinds of things that is just ongoing, always, all of the time. So learning about yourself, consider the following questions as you move through your studies and your work. What are you good at and what do you care about? Then is there a place of intersection at the workplace? Because if you can determine what your answers are to these questions, then you will have a better time tailoring your job search, targeting workplaces or environments or roles that are actually suited for you. If you don't know what you're good at, or if you don't know what you actually care about, you're going to have a tougher time finding a good fit for you. So that's where you really have to be doing those, the self-reflective work in order for us to help you better. So I feel like I'm cycling a bit here, but as I said before, just make sure that you're taking the time out of your very busy lives on occasion to reassess, question, what skills do you have? Are you improving your skills? Do you need to come up with a strategy to develop certain hard skills? Hopefully your coursework will help with that. But if you find that, as you're doing your employer research, job descriptions are mentioning certain things that you are not familiar with, well, that's, a place where you can explore and develop. So if you're, a programmer, for example, and there's a language you're not familiar with, and it keeps coming up in job postings, well, that's an indication that you need to, well, not need to, but that maybe it would be helpful for you to, take a course in that specific programming language or do a project using that language, so on and so forth. Your interests and your priorities can also change over time. So, maybe you realize, hey, I don't want to work in Newfoundland in the future because it's too cold here. That does happen sometimes. Then you have to redirect your energy to finding jobs elsewhere, right? And so all of those things come together. Knowing what your priorities are is also extremely helpful, and know that that can change over time. Life stages as well, right? So if you, have family to take care of, or you just decide that you want to go travel for a while, obviously that's going to impact your job search. So every experience can serve to inform you in some way. Make sure you're taking the time throughout your degree to ask yourself those questions. The more you know about yourself, the better time you're going to have with your career. So going over some career services here at the university. We have a team of staff dedicated to providing resources and promoting the career development of our students. We offer one-on-one appointments to provide guidance with the following: resumes, cover letters, interviews, LinkedIn profiles, career exploration, and job hunting. All students, alumni, and their spouses can access career services free of charge. So current students should use Navigate to book an appointment. This is because all of our schedules are synced with the system, and it does send out automated reminders, which are really helpful because we do find that on occasion students, even with those reminders, still forget their appointments. So the more the more you pay attention to your email, the better. But we do like using Navigate just because it kind of cuts down on the back and forth with appointment scheduling. If you are alumni, you can email this email address here, cdel@mun.ca, using your MUN email if possible, to receive a referral. And if you are booking on behalf of your spouse, you can still use Navigate or the other option, emailing this inbox, to try and set up an appointment. Anything that is underlined in turquoise is also a hyperlink. So this presentation will be shared with you, and you can go back and pop those open to explore the resources. As time allows, I will also be walking you through a few of these. For now, we will move on and discuss some of the career programs that we have here as well. So we do host and or run a number of programs to help students develop your careers and also the student success competencies. So some of those programs include the MUSEP, ISWEP, SWASP, and GradSWEP programs. So MUSEP stands for Memorial University Campus Employment Program. ISWEP is International Student Work Experience Program. SWASP is the student, I think it's Student Work and Service for Parents or something along those lines. Just know that the SWASP is dedicated for students who are also parents, supporting dependents while you are studying. And then the GradSWEP is an on-campus employment program for grad students specifically. So if you're a grad student, you are not eligible for the MUSEP or ISWEP. However, you might be eligible for the SWASP if you are a student parent supporting a dependent here on campus. And then, of course, the GradSWEP would be for you. So GradSWEP stands for Grad Student Work Experience Program. So these are on-campus employment opportunities set up through the Career Development Office. So essentially what happens is on-campus employers will come to Career Development and say, hey, we want to hire a student. And essentially we kind of disperse the funds for them to be able to do that. That being said, all of the employment opportunities are part-time because obviously we want students to also be able to focus on your studies. So the MUSEP and ISWEP programs are 40 or 80 hours per semester, depending on what the employer wanted to offer. The SWASP has a very specific number of hours. I would recommend you look into that if you're interested in that program. And then the GradSWEP, I believe, is 75 hours. So I think we'll have a little bit of time later on in the presentation to take a look at the specifics of each of those programs, but that's just a quick overview for on-campus part-time employment opportunities that are available to you. There is also the Professional Skills Development Program. I'm just realizing I could update the sentence below here, but essentially it is a 6-week non-credit offering for international students looking to familiarize themselves with best labor market practices. So I'm the one who runs that program for the time being. And instead of 30-hour paid work opportunities, we are actually hoping to bump that up to 60 this term. We do already have a lot of students registered for the program, so you might not be able to fit it into this semester, but we are going to run it again in the winter. And we're also hoping to offer those 60-hour work placement opportunities then as well. The program is quite competitive in terms of the application process. So if you feel like, maybe I'll do the program, the curricular component of the program first, and then apply for these work integrated learning opportunities at another time, that's totally fine. We are actually very happy to allow students to just complete the program itself first without that paid work placement and allow them to apply for those paid work placements after the program. That's probably actually what I would recommend for newer students, because as you're transitioning to, living in a new place like St. John's, getting used to your course schedules, just getting situated, I'm sure a lot of you have just kind of gone through the process of moving even. There's a lot to adjust to. So adding on a work experience to that might be demanding a lot of you. There's also the Experience Ventures program. So this enables students to make an impact alongside real world innovators through paid entrepreneurial thinking placements. So a lot of the employers that are involved with this one are typically startups. So if you're really interested in that sort of space, new startups, business, tech, that sort of thing, you might want to investigate the Experience Ventures program. Career events. So throughout the year, our office also hosts events for students to learn about careers, to network, and to discover job opportunities. So generally speaking, throughout the year, we have these main features. We have Career Week, which typically happens in March. We have the Career and Graduate School Fair, which is occurring this month. So September 27th, it's a Wednesday. That's hyperlinked. We'll go over that in a few minutes, just to give you an idea of all the employers that will be in attendance. Career Month then occurs in November. So throughout the month, we try to have some kind of career-related activity. Every business day, if possible, but we'll see what happens. That's still kind of in the works and planning. And then we also have workshops and networking events. So there's two places where you can see what's available. The my.mun.ca portal, where you kind of log in with your student ID or student username and password, and then also the student life calendar. So if you see SL, that usually means student life here at MUN. So the student life calendar also will have events posted there. Of course, there are student groups as well, and there are also faculty events. So the university is very big. We don't necessarily have the ability or the capacity to cross-post every single event that is happening. So beyond what you see on this page or this slide here, I would highly recommend that you really pay attention to your emails. Anything that's sent out through your faculty, they might be promoting events and networking opportunities. The general MUN email list, so things like Newsline. If you're not subscribed to that, I would highly recommend you look into that. The Internationalization Office listserv will also have lots of events and networking opportunities posted. And then there's all of the student groups. So the student groups as well, they don't necessarily reach out to the university to put out communications with regard to events that they are hosting. So, you know, for example, maybe the Grad Students Union, they're usually pretty well in touch, but they might also post things through their Facebook or through their Instagram channels. What else? I think there's the National Society for Black Engineers. That's a campus group that's really active in the networking space. So, and their events are open to anybody. You don't have to identify as a Black individual. Any international student can join those. You just have to usually register in advance. So I think it's NSBE MUN. They have a pretty active Instagram and Facebook page as well. And then there's other organizations such as TechNL. They will host networking events. I think there's also a group called Global NL that also hosts events that are open to students on occasion. So you kind of just need to build your networks, be active on Facebook groups, Instagram if you have it, and be paying attention to your email if you want to kind of keep afloat on everything. There's also a lot to be said about just walking around. So some students kind of get stuck on campus and don't really explore any other part of the city, but there's a whole world outside of campus, right? So lots of jobs are available, for example, downtown in St. John's, along Water Street. There's lots of hotels and restaurants there who are often hiring. Obviously, the mall is a really huge employer as well. And then anything else on Kenmount Road, you could also go to the Village Mall, and then even beyond that. So there are employment opportunities all over the place. It's just a matter of, you know, being, I guess, aware of them as they come up. Some employers will post through Indeed, some will post through Job Bank, some will post internally on their own websites. Some will just post up a sign on their storefront. So both digitally and in person, you have to be paying attention and checking all of these different modes of communication in order to stay afloat of everything that's going on. So before we get into questions, let me just walk you through a few of the links in the slide deck. So let me just escape the presentation and we will go back to our resource page. So on slide 9, we have a link to career development, career resources. Pop that open here. So again, it's a general overview of some of the services we offer, but we also have these really useful tip sheets. So if you have, questions about how to build your network, or, on-campus employment programs, or how to create your resume, we have great resources here. I will open one, just an example. Let's say creating your resume. This is one that lots of people like to start with. So this is a 2-page tip sheet that kind of gives you the basics of what to know about resume writing. It's a self-marketing tool that highlights your education, work experience, and accomplishments while profiling your ability to effectively do the work for which an employer is hiring. On that note, resumes should be tailored to specific job postings or positions that you're applying for. So we really do not recommend creating one resume and then mass applying for a bunch of different jobs. Each of those jobs are likely asking for something a little bit different. So we highly recommend that you tailor your job application materials, not just your resume, but also your cover letter to attract employers. That's kind of one of the big things that I think a lot of students, not just international ones, kind of get stuck on is mass applying and then receiving nothing back, is because employers don't want to see generic applications. They want to see applications from people who have clearly read the job that they are advertising for. On top of that, employers only scan resumes for about 10 to 15 seconds. Some research actually suggests they scan resumes for even less than that. So if you don't put a lot of work into your resume, chances are employers are not going to care for it. So you need to make sure that your resume and your cover letter as well captures their attention. It has to be effective and really well laid out. It's kind of incredible how fast employers kind of decide that a resume is not worth considering. So if you don't put the work in, they are really not going to be interested in your profile. We also have a full guide that's linked here. Oh, sorry, this one doesn't seem to work. But if you look up Memorial resume and cover letter guide, it should be one of the first resources that come up. I think I spelled that wrong. No, I didn't. Let's just check here. So I think on this page, yeah, so this page works. We will need to update our website there. But anyways, we have a full guide on both the resume and cover letter. This is a great resource for you to refer to if job hunting in the North American context is a bit new to you. There's also examples towards the bottom. So you can kind of use these as a model. That's not to say what's provided here is a perfect template. It definitely isn't. And that's the tricky thing about job application materials. You have to make sure that they are presenting you as a unique individual. So we definitely don't recommend like just copying and pasting things that you find on the internet. Yeah, it's something to spend some time on. But there is also a really excellent example of a cover letter here. And on, let's just see here, this page, so page 13, there is an excellent guide to how to structure your cover letter and what questions you should be answering with that document. So that's the guide to cover letters and resumes. I'm just trying to shift my window here so I can show you some other things. So there are other career tip sheets as well, not just the resume one, not just the cover letter one. For example, building your network might be really interesting for you. It kind of walks you through how you can best do that. And I highly recommend, of course, as you start your studies here, that you talk to as many people as you can if you're interested in, this concept of networking. That's what it's all about. You never know what person, friend, or contact will refer you to a job in the future. So if you start planting those seeds now and building those relationships early on in your degree, perhaps by the time you graduate, you'll have become, pretty good friends with that person, or they see that you have skills and experiences to offer throughout your degree and then recommend you to apply for something in the future. So you never know. That's why we encourage you to make as many connections as you can right now, get involved with student groups or community organizations, volunteer if you have the time, all those sorts of things. There is research that suggests what is sometimes referred to as weak connections. So not your close family or your close friends, but maybe a friend of a friend, or someone that you see at a club every week or so. It's those weak connections that actually lead to more jobs for people. So that's a really interesting little fun fact there. Okay, so those are the career tip sheets and resources that are available on the career development website. I'm going to go back to our slide presentation and show you some other things that are available. Our MUSEP, ISWEP, SWASP, and GradSWEP programs are listed here. So depending on which programs you're eligible for, you can click on each of these individual links and do a little bit more reading on them. For example, if you are an international student and an undergrad, this would be the link for you. All of these jobs are going to be advertised as of tomorrow at 5 p.m. You can apply for them until next Friday, September 15th, until 11 a.m. Late applications are not accepted. So do read the instructions carefully. They kind of walk you through how to find the job postings step by step, and then how to apply for them. And again, read the job descriptions carefully. Try to tailor your resume and application. You can imagine how many students are applying for these. So employers can be quite picky. And if your resume and cover letter does not speak to them, then your chances of being invited for an interview are, not as favorable. On the left side as well, you can navigate the links. So here I've just opened up the grad student work experience program. It is 75 hours, and you can hold a grad SWEP position in conjunction with other forms of university funding, such as a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, as long as your combined hours worked do not exceed the maximum allowable as defined by the School of Graduate Studies. So at the moment, that is 24 hours a week. However, if you find that you're not able to, stick to that maximum, you can email the School of Graduate Studies for exceptions. I've heard that they are quite, right now, flexible with that. Okay, I won't go through these two. I'll let you do that on your own, just in the interest of time. However, the career fair link is worth exploring. So here is just some more information about the career fair that's coming up. So as I said before, it is September 27th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's taking place at the Field House. It is free. There are going to be over 100 employers attending the fair. So if you just kind of want to get a read of even, who is, hiring in the province, this would be a great place to go for future reference as well. So it's a great way to do some employer research, figure out, what all these organizations are about. There's a huge range of them, from like engineering companies to, consulting companies, non-for-profits, tech startups. The Canadian government also is sending a few departments over. We've got, what else do we have? Oil and gas, research, analytics. There's also some kind of more like service-oriented companies who will be in attendance, such as Costco. We will also have other universities there. So yeah, there's a ton of employers who will be in attendance. If you just click on these, you will get a little blurb to do a bit more research or reading on that. And there's also hyperlinks that will lead you to their websites. So if you're interested in doing a little bit of advanced research so that when you show up at the career fair, you have something to talk to them about, we do highly recommend that. We actually did get feedback last year from a few employers that they didn't find many students were kind of ready to present themselves. A lot of them apparently did not have resumes on hand, even though they were interested in applying for work. So if you are, hoping to apply for work immediately with these companies, bring your resume so that they can kind of conduct maybe an informal or even a formal interview right on the spot there. But if you don't have that piece of paper, they're not going to be as, interested in you as a candidate because, you're not showing that you are well prepared to market yourself. So that is the career fair. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is the student life calendar. So this, if you Google, for example, Memorial Student Life, it will direct you to our general student life website, and career services falls under the student life department. So if you then click on the tab here, you can find career services. There are also obviously other units that fall under student life. So if you are having, issues with your coursework because you need accommodation, then you'd want to go to accessibility services. If you're looking for financial support and funding, then maybe navigate to this tab, so on and so forth. But for now, I'll just show you what's found or where you can find career services. So that's over here. Some of the other pages we already explored are kind of listed on the left here. But the general student life calendar is actually on the opening splash page. So mun.ca/student. If you scroll down, we have events listed. Okay. And we try to update this as much as we can. But you can see, at least for September, we do have quite a number of things going on, or things that have been shared with us that we are promoting to students. So actually, as we speak, there is this diversity, equity, and inclusion fair that's being hosted by, I think, a few government departments. And it runs until this is in Eastern time. So it actually starts now. So it started at 12:30 and it's going until 4:30. And there's a link to register here. It's free, it's virtual if you're interested in careers with the government. We also have info sessions coming up with these consulting companies and Valet, which is kind of an engineering services company. They are also hosting an info session towards the end of the month. And I know that Synovus, another engineering firm, is looking to host a session coming up soon as well. So I'm not sure if there's anything. Oh, we do have something in October right now scheduled, but typically like this will be populated as as the weeks happen, and we're trying our best to stay on top of that. Otherwise, a bunch of events are also listed on the my.mun.ca website. So I would also recommend you check that out on a periodic occasion. I will actually navigate there right now. My menu looks a little bit different from yours because I'm an employee. So for me, I'm going to log in here. As I'm doing this, Maria, do you think we should host questions together at the end, or should we each do different questions, like a separate question session?
It's up to you. I do have another meeting I will have to run to at 1:15, so you can judge accordingly.
Okay, let's do a combined session. So after I just look over this calendar, I will pass it off to you, and then we'll have an abbreviated question and answer session. I also have an appointment right after this. So anyway, so once you log into my.mun.life, you will be shown this general dashboard page, and the links of interest are on the left side if you are on a web browser. I'm not sure how this looks like on a phone, so that's something you will have to kind of navigate. But the on-campus employment programs, again, they're over here. And then the Career Development Center has stuff here, and we have a secondary events calendar here. So anything that you have to register for would be posted here, as opposed to that other web page that I showed you that just lives publicly on the Student Life website. If you have to register for something or if registration is encouraged, then it's going to show up here. Okay, so there, for example, Ernst & Young, this event was not posted on the general calendar. You had to log in to see that here. In addition, there's, the Synovus is coming in. That wasn't posted on that general web page. We also have Crow and McKay. I believe this is a legal firm. So yeah, there's lots of stuff internally as well. So we recommend that you kind of cross-check both pages. I think that's it for me. But I recommend, generally speaking, to just become very familiar with this portal here because it does have a lot of resources for you. Great, I will pass it off to Maria now and stop sharing. So just give me a second. Oh, I think I already did stop sharing. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop my video and yeah, allow Maria to take over now.
Okay, I'm just gonna share my screen. Just 1 second. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. And everyone can see my screen now?
I can see your screen.
Okay, and now the slide deck is projecting. Got it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about workers' rights in Newfoundland and Labrador. Because I'm sure a lot of you will be getting jobs as students and then also probably looking to stay in Newfoundland and Labrador for a little while after you graduate. So yeah, it's important that you know a little bit about the law and your rights in the workplace. So, a little overview of a presentation. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about PLIAN, which is my organization, and what we do. And then I'll talk briefly about legal rights in general for newcomers to the province. And then we'll go into some rights and responsibilities of workers and how that relates to employment law, specifically in Newfoundland and Labrador. And then we can do some questions at the end if you guys have any. So, Public Legal Information Association of Newfoundland and Labrador, that's where I work. And my project is the Newcomers Project, so Newcomers Legal Rights. And basically, we are an independent nonprofit and we provide legal information, education, and access to justice, which can mean a lot of things to anyone living in Newfoundland and Labrador. So anybody who is a resident of the province can use our services. We do have a lawyer referral service. So if you did have a legal issue that you needed to speak to a lawyer about, you could contact me and I could put you in touch with a lawyer. Usually they do a 30-minute consultation for a fee of $40. So while there is a fee associated with our lawyer referral service, it is significantly less than if you were to seek out the services of a lawyer outside of our organization. Lawyers these days can cost upwards of $300, $400, $500 an hour, which is obviously a lot of money, and who can afford that these days? So we are always there to put you in contact with a lawyer if you have specific legal questions and need some legal advice. We also have online resources. We have a lot of different publications about different areas of the law, family law, residential tenancies, workplace law. So any of those are available as well through our website, or if you contact me, I can certainly send them to you as well. And we are open Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So you can call this number anytime and speak to someone. And they'll definitely either be able to answer your questions, give you the information that you need, or point you in the right direction. So don't hesitate to call us. Another element of our organization is the Journey Project, and I always like to mention the Journey Project in my presentations. Basically, what the Journey Project does is they support individuals who have experienced any type of sexual violence, which can be a broad range of different things. And I mean, basically, if you feel like you have experienced sexual violence, then you meet the criteria for the Journey Project. You know, it just depends on your experience. And they can help with things like putting you in touch with a lawyer to get legal advice, helping you navigate the system. They will go with you to the police if you want to make a report about something that you've experienced. They'll provide emotional support. So it's definitely a good project to keep in the back of your mind should you or anyone you know ever need to avail of the services. I think Emma is recording this presentation as well. So if you want to screenshot the number or take a picture of it, that's good as well. So yeah, I always like to just mention the Journey Project. If you have any other questions about it, don't hesitate to reach out to me or them directly. So my project specifically supports newcomers in Newfoundland and Labrador. And it doesn't matter if you've been here for 1 day or 2 days or 20 years. If you are a newcomer to Newfoundland and Labrador, you can avail of the services of my project. What I mostly help individuals with is labor and employment, which is what I'm going to talk about today, and residential tenancies. So that's to do with renting houses or apartments or rooms in a house. And also family law comes up quite a bit as well. So I will work with you if you are facing any type of legal issue, and either help you navigate the system, put you in touch with a lawyer, give you the right information, help you understand a website, help you understand how to file different claims. I can do it all, and I'm more than happy to do it all and support you in any way that I can. So please don't hesitate ever to reach out to me if you are facing any type of legal issue. All right, so what we're here for is workers' rights, and we are going to talk a little bit about the rights and responsibilities of the employer and employee. So how does the law deal with employment? So there are two types of laws around this, which is employment law, which is non-unionized, which I'm going to focus on in this presentation, and I'm pretty much going to leave the other part out because what you guys as students will mostly be dealing with would be non-unionized employment, which would be covered by the Labor Standards Act of Newfoundland and Labrador. So basically, the Labor Standards Act lays out all of your rights as well as your responsibilities in the workplace when you do get a job here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So it lays out things like how long you can be asked to work, how many days a week you can be asked to work, how many hours, what your vacation is, the minimum wage, if the employer wants to fire you or terminate your job, how they can do that, what the rules are around that. So the Labor Standards Act lays out all of this. And usually when you work a job, for example, like at Starbucks or maybe Tim Hortons or in the mall, a lot of times what happens is they won't give you a written contract. And that's like a common misconception is that the employer has to give you a contract on paper. But that doesn't always happen in a lot of part-time or like minimum wage jobs. But what happens then if you don't have a contract is that your job is automatically covered by the Labor Standards Act. And so you would refer to that when you're looking for your rights in the workplace. And of course, I would say you can always ask your employer for a written contract. There's nothing that says you can't do that if you feel that that's something that you want. you can always ask your employer for that. Okay, so, sorry. So collective bargaining is something that happens more in the unions, which I'm not going to talk about as much in this presentation because you likely won't be getting a job that's unionized if you're getting a job like part-time as a student. But when you graduate, you might get a job that would then lead you to be part of a union. And that would cover things like pay rates, seniority and promotions, overtime benefits, pension, healthcare. It's like one big contract for all employees. So rather than getting individual contracts, it's like one big contract that sets out the rights and responsibilities of all the employees. So workplace safety. What does it mean to be safe at work? So I often get calls from people with this question, or they have questions about an experience or a situation that they've been in at work, and they're not sure if it was unsafe or if they had the right to do something or refuse to work. And basically, you always can, you follow your intuition, follow your gut. If something doesn't feel right or safe to you, always take a step back, talk to your manager and be like, this doesn't feel right. I don't feel good about this. But when it comes to the law, you can refuse work and not be punished for it if you do feel that it's dangerous to your health or safety or the health and safety of someone else that you're working with. So you and your coworkers have the right to stop working until your employer has assessed the situation and fixed the problem and made the workplace safe again, or until a committee, like we have a committee, Workplace Health and Safety here in Newfoundland and Labrador, Occupational Health and Safety, sorry. And they will often, if there's a workplace issue related to safety, they will come in and do an investigation to make sure that the workplace is safe. And you and your coworkers don't have to work in that workplace until that investigation has been done or action has been taken to make the workplace safe again. So you're probably wondering what kind of situations could you be in that would warrant this. So when you say reasonable grounds to believe that you or someone else is in danger, it means like if somebody else or a group of people were looking at the situation, would they all think, yeah, this is not safe, or this is a dangerous thing, or this is a dangerous situation? So that's what it means when we say reasonable. So for example, not being trained to handle certain equipment. So if you're working at like a food establishment, and they're asking you to use, for example, a meat slicer that has huge blades and you've never been showed how to use it, you've never been trained, you don't know how it works, you can say, no, I'm not doing that until I receive the training. Again, with training, you should have updated training as well. So if someone is training you to use a piece of equipment, then every so often you should be given more training or a refresher, we call it, to use certain equipment. Also, doing a job without safety equipment, so like a face shield or a hard hat or high visibility clothing, that's what's listed here, but it also could be like a face mask, like during COVID, or being given the proper gloves if you're using sharp tools, stuff like this. You can refuse to do work unless the employer provides you with the equipment or uniform necessary to keep you safe. This is not the only type of unsafe work as well. So, for example, if you are in a psychologically unsafe workplace, someone is bullying you or threatening you or harassing you, occupational health and safety, that is the organization, Newfoundland and Labrador, will look at psychological unsafety now as well. And they're beginning to incorporate that a lot more into how they investigate complaints about workplaces. So it's not just physical safety, it's also your psychological and emotional well-being and safety that you should have in the workplace. So after you refuse work, what happens? So a few things can happen if you do find yourself in a situation where you don't feel safe and you are refusing to work. The employer could give you a different job. So you might not be able to, for example, work in the kitchen using the meat slicer, but they might put you out front of the store on a cash register. And they would have to obviously continue to pay you what you are owed as you are working. If they don't give you a different job, like if there's no other job for you to do except this job that is unsafe currently, then they would still have to pay you your regular wages until they fix the problem and you can go back to work. So they would either have to give you a different job or you would not work and they would still have to pay you. Okay. So definitely talk to your supervisor if you ever are in a situation where you think work might be unsafe. And it is your responsibility to report it if you do see a situation or something's going on or a piece of broken equipment that is putting you or your coworkers in danger. That is your responsibility to report it. And if your supervisor or employer doesn't fix the problem, then then you can report it to Occupational Health and Safety of Newfoundland and Labrador. So first line of reporting would be to your manager, and then if nothing happens or they're not fixing the situation, then you can report it to Occupational Health and Safety. And when you do find yourself in an unsafe situation and there is an accident, so hopefully that never happens to anybody, but if you do find yourself witnessing or part of an accident at work, it's good to leave everything as it is, okay? Because there will be an investigation done by Occupational Health and Safety, and they will try and figure out what happened, how it happened, what the cause was. So leaving everything as it is at the scene of an accident is important, unless you have to obviously help someone or prevent other injuries or it says protecting property that is endangered because of the accident, and I would like caution you not to put yourself in danger to protect property, but it's listed there in workplace health and safety. And if you do get injured at work, you can report to Workplace NL, and they will kind of do an assessment of what happened, your injury and things like that, to see if you can safely work at a different job or if you might have to have new training or go back to school. Sometimes Workplace NL will compensate you if you are injured at work, but it does go through like a claims process. You will be assessed, and it doesn't always happen that you would get paid by them. But always report to Workplace Newfoundland and Labrador Occupational Health and Safety if you do get injured, because they will do an assessment. Now, if you do find yourself in an abusive workplace, of course, you are under no obligation to stay there. You are more than free to quit your job and contact a variety of organizations for help. You can contact us, you can contact your your resources at MUN. You can contact a lawyer, anything like this. You can reach out to anybody if you're in an abusive workplace. So the employer's responsibilities are obviously to pay you. They're going to pay you according to your contract or according to what they laid out in your employment agreement. They have to ensure that your workplace is safe, give you breaks and time off, and respect the terms of your contract or respect the Labor Standards Act, as I mentioned earlier. Employer cannot force you to perform duties that you're not hired or trained to do, especially if they're not safe. They cannot force you to work if you are sick or injured or take your passport or work permit from you. They can't have you deported or change your immigration status, and they cannot make you pay them back fees they paid to hire you. So this is an important one for international students as well, because you might wonder if your employment is tied to your immigration status, and it's not. And an employer can never, ever have control over your immigration status. Even if you were not an international student and you came here on a work visa for an employer, they still don't have any control over your immigration status. They cannot have you deported. They cannot take your passport. They cannot take your work permit. They have no control over your work status or over your immigration status. So that's very important for you to know now and when you graduate. So you can always change your employer. You can always quit, get a new job. If you are here on a work permit or you have friends who might have this question and who are here on work permits or a spouse, you can work in Canada or you can stay in Canada as long as your work permit is valid. If someone has an open work permit, you can change your employers whenever, however long you want, however many times you want, as long as your work permit is valid. And if you have an employer-specific work permit, as I mentioned, you can quit your job and you can look for another job, but your new employer has to get permission from IRCC to hire you. So there's also something I'm just going to touch on briefly that might not be as relevant to you as international students, but you might know people in this situation. If someone does have a closed work permit and they are in an abusive situation with an employer, which can be any of these things listed on the screen and more, you can quit the job. You can leave the job and you can apply for what's called an open work permit for vulnerable workers. So if someone wants to leave an abusive workplace, they can apply to IRCC for this open work permit. And you can find another job. It would be an open work permit. You would just have to kind of provide information to IRCC about what happened at your workplace, make a victim impact statement, show emails or text messages or some kind of like photo or proof of what happened in the workplace. And IRCC will contact you within 5 days of making your application. And they might ask you for an interview as well. So this is an option. If you know anybody in this situation who has a closed work permit, but they're in an abusive situation, this is also an option for them. And all workers have the right to get help and to get support and to be safe here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So you can report an employer for abuse or for an unsafe workplace or anything, and you cannot be deported for filing a complaint, even if the employer terminates your contract. And you definitely cannot be obligated to perform any work or forced to perform any work. And anyone can report abuse, even if you want to report it anonymously, you can. Just a couple of other options for getting help. This is Service Canada has a tip line. for employers who are violating the rights of workers, especially international workers. So you can call this number and report. So if you are going to be terminated by your employer, they would have to give you specific notice. So usually notice is 2 weeks, unless you're in the first 90 days of a job. Then the employer can terminate your contract or your employment for any reason without giving you notice. That's within the first 90 days. After that, they would have to give you notice based on how long you've been there, what's in your contract. And if they do not give you notice, they would have to pay you instead of that notice. And this can all be found in the Labor Standards Act as well, or if you have questions about it, you can contact me as well. And this is just some notes for employers. That's not relevant really to you guys, so I'll skip over that. Another option for reporting is the Human Rights Commission. So if you feel like your employment has been terminated based on any personal characteristics like immigration status, race, age, sexual orientation, religion, anything like that, or if you're being harassed or bullied in the workplace based on any of these characteristics, you can also report your employer to the Human Rights Commission, and they will also do an investigation into your complaint. Again, Workplace NL, this is the organization you would contact if you were in any situation that was unsafe or dangerous at work. If you needed to report something, report an accident, if you got injured at work, you can contact them. And this is the Labor Standards Division. You can call them if you have any questions about the Labor Standards Act, or if you think something is not right with your workplace or your employment agreement, you can also call them, and they are very good at getting back to you and answering your questions as well. And this is my information. I know it's a lot of information and a lot to wrap your head around, and I find most people don't know what they want to know until they're in a situation where they want or need to know it. So feel free to reach out to me anytime as you navigate the employment world here and you run into situations or questions that might come up, and feel free. I'm always here to answer them or put you in touch with somebody who can. And yeah, that's it for me. I just realized I had my video off the whole time. If anyone has questions, feel free to ask.
I was going to say, I don't know that our faces are even accompanying the video recording or when we present. So anyways, I just wanted to say my next appointment is here. So I don't have any time to field any questions. So if you have anything for me, you can just contact me at EMAS at mon.ca. I was like in the midst of spelling it out and saying my name and then got confused. So EMAS at mon.ca or CDIL. I'll just type that in the chat. So you have that there. But yes, this presentation is being recorded and it will be distributed once we get organized. I'm going to maybe just stop the recording if that works.
Yeah.
And then
I have about 5 minutes if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to answer.
Okay, cool. Let me stop the recording first and then I will